Hello students, welcome you all back to the subject of Industrial Engineering and Management. This video will be continuing with what we have been discussing in Unit 5. So the topics which have been highlighted in red are the ones which we will be discussing in this video. Integrated Enterprise Resource Planning, Supply Chain and Logistics Management are the topics. So what ERP refers to? ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. It is the software solutions which have been designed or which have been framed to address the needs of the enterprise, taking into account the overall organization performance, and it has the ability to meet the goals by integrating all the functions under a common platform. It is also called, it can also have a different kind of definitions for ERP as well as, but in general, ERP helps in facilitating a company-wide integrated information system covering all the functional areas of the and performs core corporate activities through which the customer service is increased and also augmenting the corporate image. So it is, in a simpler term, ERP is about utilization of techniques and concepts where you are creating a common platform, more precisely a software platform, where all the informations related of the informations of the enterprise are entered over there, and all these informations come under a common umbrella stating the called as ERP, wherein it is easier tracking of the informations and easier identification of the informations can be done. So you could see here a simple example of why an ERP system needs to be implemented. You could see that the information is obviously vast. Every organization have varied information, and there are huge number of information. Even if you take for especially for MNCs and large scale companies, it is like island. You have different information in different island scenarios. So you need to integrate everything and put it under a common platform, and that is what ERP does usually. Starts from finance, integrating of human resources, the logistics, sales and distribution, material management, manufacturing, and as well as the operational performance. All these categories are integrated, and especially all the informations in each of those sectors are integrated, and it comes under a common platform called as ERP. So how does this concept of ERP evolved over a period of time? It started up in the early 1960s, where they were utilizing computers, especially systems, just for the purpose of usage of inventory control. It's like replacing the basic balance sheet which they were utilizing. How much have been how much of material have come there, entered, and how much of material have moved out. So that is what they have been doing. And in 1970s, it started off with material requirement planning, and 1980s and mid 1990s, it moved on to the concept of MRP 1 and 2. Yes, especially what MRP basically about. It's an upgraded version of what the inventory control have been happening. MRP was about the material requirement planning, and MRP 2 is about manufacturing resource planning. You could see the upgradation where initially it was only about having the inventory with related to material planning and procurement alone, and in 1980s when it upgraded to manufacturing, they had this concept of extending the MRP concept to shop floor and distribution management as well. So in mid 1990s, this concept of MRP was evolved into ERP, which is Enterprise Resource Planning, covering all the activities of the enterprise. Initially, it started off with only with the inventory control, then it moved on to materials planning and procurement, then it moved on to shop floor activities and distribution management, and in ERP, they were able to cover all the activities under a common platform. So of late in 2000, it has evolved into the next version of ERP, which is about the collaborative commerce, extending the ERP to external business entities as well. It is about having a collaborative platform of data integration of your suppliers, your vendors, your customers, and all your distributors as well. It's not only about information about a particular enterprise, it is about integrating the information which is available in, related to all the other companies as well. Right, so that has been the evolution how an ERP has been evolving over the years, and you could see here in of late the ERP2, which is ERP. You could see the global system, department module, customer relationship management, supply chain management, the stakeholders modules. All those things are integrated under a common platform. So that gives an easier tracking of information, and more importantly, the transparency of the information is quite evident here. What are the components of ERP? It starts with finance. The modules for keeping and making sure the bills are paid on time. It includes your ledgers, the accounts payable and receivable. And the second category of HR, where all the personal related tasks for corporate managers. It includes the payroll, the employee details, the HR administrations. All these components can be incorporated. the third component of manufacturing and logistics, where the planning of production planning, material management schedule, order entry, order processing, or how much of order have come in, inventory control, all those steps comes under this category, inclusive of the warehouse management is also a part of this manufacturing component. So three major functions of this manufacturing logistics is to integrate financial data. The manufacturing process has to be standardized, and the HR information has to be standardized as well. So these are the key important functions of a ERP system. Of course, there are a few other components too, but these three components of finance, HR, and manufacturing and logistics. These three components play a key role in defining how an ERP module has to be developed and how this helps in easier retrieving of data. So what is how much of time and how does this ERP project takes upon? How does it works? Usually, the real transformational for a successful implementation of ERP will take about 1 to 3 years of time on average. Of course, nothing can be done on overnight, so you need to have proper implementation. Once implementation is done, it will take 1 or 2 years to have a full-fledged implementation, and the next 1 to 2 years will take up for any query to be revived, or probably any upgradation to be done, because only after implementation you come across certain practical difficulties which are faced, right? So there are also possibilities of implementing ERP in for a shorter period of time, like 3 to 6 months of time. Especially it is applicable only for medium scale enterprises, like small companies where the production volume is very minimal, or you can also implement to only a particular area of the company. And also it is used for a few of the financial sectors as well, right? Only for if you are focusing only to the financial aspect of the enterprise, you can implement ERP for a very short period of time as well. So how do you select this product? So the product selection criteria for ERP is, the ideal aim, of course, is to select the most suitable software for the package solution. But these are the 5 different requirements or levels through which you will be able to select the ERP module. First thing is, you look up to its functionality, how much of varied function it is able to provide, and the technology in which it is used, whether the technology is going to be obsolete or whether the technology can be upgraded for the next few years is what you need to look up for. And you have to look up for the vendors who are providing this ERP module. Of course, you have to choose in the one who are giving at a lesser price, but again, the brand reputation or the name comes into play. So if you are choosing a vendor who is been in the market for a few years, then of course that gives you a liberty of a security of having a error-free software, right? And also how much of support the particular module can give, right? The support refers to the after sales service, like how much of time, whether they'll be able to provide the support, whether they are more agile, they are more flexible to any errors, or they are more flexible to they are more ready for providing any sort of upgradation if and then an error occurs. Of course, the fifth criteria comes into the cost. Whichever is the least cost, you have to choose it up. We'll put up an example of how an enterprise have been working on when before ERP was implemented. So before ERP was implemented, you could see here how the different sectors have been implementing. It starts with customers who order the parts. It comes to demographic files. Then it moves on to the accounting files of the department. Then the purchasing file, it accesses the data from the accounting file, and then it gets invoices for the accounting. Then the vendor gets the invoices, and he ships parts to the warehouses, and from the warehouses it moves to the manufacturing part. So once the manufacturing done, the purchasing also order the parts, and how much of quantity you need to order. Then there is an inventory file. You could see that the sales department will have the access to the inventory file where they will check in for parts, and also the warehouses will be accessed by the sales department where they call back the parts which are not in stock. And also it helps them to order the parts, the requirement in which they will be able to, the requirements for manufacturing a particular product, they will be ordering the parts from the warehouse as well. So you could see here they are like close to the sales department and the warehouse. They are like bi-directional. They will be checking for parts through the system at warehouses, and then of course the warehouses will be checking for ordering the parts to as and when the sales department is placing the order, and the invoice accounting and the warehouses through the accounting as well as. So you could see there's a cluster of data here. It's very hard to find out a unidirectional, or probably hard to find out what is the actual flow of information is here about. And it's very difficult for an enterprise to have control over all these kind of information which are shared here. Hence why they wanted to have an enterprise obviously wanted to have a control over the information flow, especially. So that is where ERP comes into play. So once ERP is implemented to this kind of setup, this is how your system works. The customer just orders the part to the sales department. The sales department will access the database, which is bidirectional, and inventory parts. If there is no parts, they will order through the databases, and if there is part, they will just directly ship to the product. And you could see here the accounting departments will have an exchange of data, financial data, and the invoice against the orders as well, right? And from the databases, the warehouses will also book inventory against the customer's order. So once the customer's order is placed, the vendors will just ship the parts to the warehouses, and also the invoices will be directly sent to the accounting department. Rather than from the vendors, it is moving to the database and then sent to the accounting. You could see that the vendors will directly send the invoices to the accounting department. So you could see that there is an organized flow of information over here. There is centralized database system where the sales department, the accounts department, the warehouse, and the purchasing, as well as they could have an integrated set of systems through which they can access the data, and that will help them in creating a more organized flow of information. And obviously the enterprise will also have a good control over the flow of information as well. So this is how an ERP will help help the organization in making sure there is some good efficiency in their overall performance by integrating all the data under common cluster. It's like having all the data under a common umbrella, right? What are the critical success factors for ERP? The main important factor is the optimistic approach of the management has to be. They have to have a very optimistic approach. They should be very flexible on adapting to the product-driven methodologies, and they have to be very keen on having any customization. And there should be a dedicated team who are well trained, and that there has to be good adherence to the product schedules as well, as right. So the technical infrastructure has to be provided. Like they should have the sufficient. They should allocate sufficient fund to the especially for the plant, or probably for the organization, to make sure that they buy the required technologies, and they should be also able to provide them the back end support, like how much of there are so much of things. Like if you're planning to implement ERP, you need to have a good server, and it has to be completely an air conditioned room has to be there. All those stuffs have to be provided. So they have the right technical infrastructure has to be provided, and of course the financial support as well. So these things play a very crucial role for the organization in bringing up a right ERP module, so that they can integrate all the functions of the business into a common platform, and that obviously helps them in on a later stage. So what are the benefits of ERP? When you have a most successful or most optimized ERP system, there is possibility of very lesser errors, and very shortened throughput time can be achieved. And also you can have a very sustainable environment where there is commitment from top management as well as the bottom management as well. And you will have complete access to the information, which will help them in easier tracking of information. And more of late we have been hearing about industries calling for traceability of information. They never knew where the information has gone to, right? So traceability of information also is one of the key important aspects which can be achieved through ERP, that gives them the immediate attention that can be seeked upon, or immediate attention to be given to a particular sector where they say that the information has been miscommunicated, or probably the information has been lost, or when there is a wrong information which has been communicated. So all these things have been can be easily addressed when you have a very successful ERP model which is implemented. Of course, every technology and every aspect of bringing in new concept into the industry will come up with few of the risk and disadvantages as well. So one of the important risk is about implementation of ERP is very expensive. That is why you don't see most of the small scale industries going for ERP implementation. A good example can be you could see an ERP, like an ERP module which is implemented on retail shops, like your Reliance retail shops and all those stuff. Whereas you go for a common so the supermarkets also have many ERPs as well. If you go to a local vendors who are nearby your houses, you could see that they don't follow ERP because they see that to be very expensive, because they have very limited number of products. So when the volume of goods are very huge, then you can go for ERP, because the tracking of information might be difficult, and also it is little bit time consuming, because it will take at least a year or two. You could see that the average year is 1 to 3 years. So there is a time involved for the organization to get benefit through out of this ERP implementation. And the acceptance within the company is also a critical factor, because most of them will be very hesitant to share the information, but they, of course, they have to be trained well and properly engaged in a way that they get to know that the sharing information is benefiting them as well as the industry. So these are the basic risks which are associated with the ERP implementation. We'll stop with this for this particular video. We'll continue the remaining part in the next video.